On today's Remington's Inside the Industry, we're going to be talking to Jason Hornady, Vice President of Hornady Ammunition Manufacturing in Grand Island, Nebraska. The Hornady name has a long history of product innovation in the very competitive ammunition marketplace. The company's tagline of accurate, deadly, and dependable is well recognized and well earned with shooters and hunters. Today we'll get to know Jason the businessman, as well as Jason the dedicated hunter, a role that I believe has, since his grandfather Joyce Hornady started the company, helped Hornady build bullets made to serve the serious hunter. This podcast is brought to you by Remington Firearms. For more information on the new era of Remington, visit our site at remarms.com. Hey, okay, so today we got Jason Hornady. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, thanks for asking, Ken. I appreciate it.
You know, it's I have to kind of, the segue has got to be this, because I've been spending a fair amount of time in Turkey. I've been there, I think, 3 times in the last year. I've got a scheduled trip again late October. And one of the things that I was looking for and planning on doing was not immediately, but at some point in time, probably next year. This year, I'm looking at some wild boar. But I was looking at this at the Ibex, and I came across this Optimum Hunting, and there's frickin' Jason Hornady killing this huge Ibex. So I sent the guy a note, and I said, look, I want to beat Hornady's. So if you can't guarantee that, I'm not coming.
Well, they've got them. And that is a very unique hunt. As much for the culture and some of that stuff as anything. But, I mean, certainly unique terrain, and those guys know how to hunt. They know where every single Ibex, I think, in the mountains are, and after we walked through a bunch of snow, they kept telling me, you need to bring snow camo. And that's kind of like you and I were talking earlier about heavy spotting scopes. I've never taken snow camo with me anywhere. It's really never been that big a deal. So I get there, and the unfortunate part is, 1, I did need snow camo, and 2, I am larger than the average Turkish hunting guy.
Yeah.
They brought me some snow camo that was about 3 sizes too small, and I had to walk through thigh-high snow trying to tug on these pants to get to this Ibex. But we did, and he's a dandy of an Ibex, and it was a one-day hunt, but that one day I felt like I got 10 days worth of walking.
Really? It was just one day?
Yeah, one day. I mean, we were all pretty shocked. We walked straight up snowy rocks a couple times when I actually wondered what the heck I was doing there. Was it worth it? Because ice, snow, and out of shape Nebraska kid, it was pretty rough. But boy, they got me on him, and he's 300 and some yards away. And fortunately, he rolled down most of the way, so we didn't have to walk all the way up.
Yeah, but the good thing is you could always say, "Hey, look, I took the shot. You can go and get it."
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but
I've often wanted to do that, but I never have.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're going over there that much, it's really a pretty reasonable hunt, too.
Well, it used to be a reasonable hunt. It's not reasonable now. They've had just a year ago, Ibex were $8,500. Right now, they're up at $20,000.
Really?
Yeah, they're inflation. They've had over an 85% inflation in the last year.
Well, that'll leave a mark.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is I'm calling a little bit of bullshit on that. And the reason I am is because they've had an 85% inflation rate, but we're still buying them in U.S. dollars. So yes, they've gone up. So if you're in Turkey and you're buying whatever it is in Turkish lira, okay, I get it. But now you're buying in, and the U.S. dollar to the lira did not go up that amount.
Yeah, they just finally figured out that they could get a lot more for them, and
they
are.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. But the other thing is that I did send back something, said, hey, because I want to go boar hunting just as on one of my trips, and it's a 1 or 2 day deal. So I sent back, and because the boar hunting went up the same rate, and I said, I think you're too expensive. Oh, don't worry, we'll make a better deal.
Well, there you go. I want to know that deal.
Yeah, exactly. But the ibex one, and I saw that ibex that you got, and I thought, wow, that's really nice. I had no idea it was a 1 day hunt. Whereabouts were you?
I was in. You asked me too quick. I was in the southeastern part of Turkey, and we were about 100 miles from the Syrian border, if I recall.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm actually Googling Turkey because I just can't remember. I want to say it was Adara, somewhere like that. Now, it was a tiny little town, and in a tiny little, they called it a hotel. It had a bed and a bathroom. The culture shock is they're a lot more into community sharing when they eat than Adana is where it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where it is.
They're a little bit more into community sharing. I mean, when dinner was served, it just kind of was all dumped out on the table, and you just start reaching and grabbing, and it's, okay.
No, I really enjoy Turkey. They've got their challenges for sure, but for me, it's they're not dissimilar to their food is not dissimilar to ours. They're big meat eaters, which I happen to like.
Yeah.
But they're very communal. I think they're almost like Afghanistan. Some of these places that are very tribal. So once you kind of get to be part of it, they're really great people. I enjoyed them a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed them a lot. They were great people, and I've done a couple of trips like that, and I did Tajikistan last December, and same deal. And literally, I mean, we were hunting the river that was right next to the area we were hunting was the border of Afghanistan, and it was still just great people, as genuine as can be. Enjoyable experience. Certainly language barriers, but yeah, every time I've hunted ibex or anywhere in there or Europe, I'm going to do Spain here over Thanksgiving, and I've just had a great time.
Yeah, well, Spain is, and now I haven't hunted Spain, but our mutual friend Tim Fallon has, and he just loves it because he said it's truly a gentleman's hunt. You go out in the morning and they have to stop at the bakery and pick up some baguettes, and they have to stop someplace else and pick up something else because you're going to have a nice lunch. They're not in a big hurry, which the Spaniards generally are not.
That is the case, and the seafood is absolutely fantastic. And I didn't know this until I went to Spain the first time, but the Spanish eat more seafood than any other country in the world, including Japan.
Really? I had no idea.
I didn't either. And you think about it, I mean, they're just a big peninsula.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, makes sense. But it is a fantastic deal. There's going to be 3 couples going, and we're going over Thanksgiving. It just so happens we're all empty nesters. And so we're like, well, we don't have to be here for Thanksgiving. Nobody's going to have their kids, so why don't we just go then?
Sounds perfect to me.
Yeah.
And they've been shut down for the last couple of years, too. So I think they're, the hunting, I think, is, from what I understand, is usually really good. But they haven't had a lot of hunters in the last 2 or 3 years since COVID.
No, they haven't. And it should be good. It'll be a fun adventure regardless, and that's half the point of doing some of these things is just the adventure. Well,
actually, I've talked to this with a number of people because Fallon and myself and Larry Weishuhn were on the worst hunt known to man in Kyrgyzstan. I mean, it was just absolutely hideous. Take half an hour to go through it all, but it was just a freaking awful hunt. And the outfitter forgot that we were coming, and we were at Bishkek from 2 a.m. till 6 when somebody actually finally showed up. They didn't have our licenses, absolutely nothing. But the people that we stayed at the first night before we got on horseback and went to camp, it was supposed to be this nice, yurt, I think it was. and which it wasn't. It was a place with no electricity, no running water. They slit the goat's the throat and boiled it, and we ate that freaking boiled goat for the next 5 or 6 days. You know, like every day we had fucking goat, you know, so imagine. So until finally we got food poisoning, and that was the end of it. But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, it was a really shitty hunt, and all kinds of, I mean, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened. But even after it was all done, we were with some pretty good friends, and we had a pretty good time, and we laughed about it a few days later.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll probably tell more stories about that trip than you will some of the ones where everything went exactly the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, it was because we came home, and I remember talking about it, and people would look like they were going, "Are you kidding me? Really? What? That happened?"
You went there? Why?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Fallon, I blame him because he had been there the previous year, and it was really it was really shitty. but he called me. He said, "Hey, the outfitters fixed everything." He said, let's go. And I said, "Okay, Fallon, I'll go." It was, you know, I think it was worse than the previous year. So.
You know, you're just reaffirming my decision-making process of not going hunting with Fallon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in all fairness, I was up at Leaf River with him, hunting caribou and bear, I don't know, a few years ago, just before Leaf River shut down. And we had a great time. You know, Hunt was really
he's
good.
A hoot.
Yeah, he is. And you know, there's not a lot of better guys to be in some sort of camp with because he'll keep you laughing.
I'm sure there were plenty of laughs if he was there.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
So other than the hunting, I know that you were just returned from Mozambique too. Word travels quickly. And you were there with your son and Mark Haldane's place, right?
I was, and it was a fantastic trip. My son graduated from high school with a 4.25 GPA.
Good for him.
And I made a deal with both my kids that my dad offered to me when I was a kid, and I screwed up. But when they started junior high, it was the deal. If you get straight A's all the way through, I will take you anywhere you want to go. And my daughter announced to me the first day of her senior year that she was going to go to Africa and hunt buffalo. And I explained to her that she still had a year to go, and she explained to me that she was telling me early so I could plan. Well, there was no way in hell that her brother wasn't going to go on a trip too. And so both of them I've taken down there on different trips, and there were 4 parent-child groups, or 4 of us that went and took our kids. And that is a unique place, different than anything I've ever seen in Africa. And we spent a couple of days on the coast first, fishing, and their coastal area is very unique, very, very pretty. And then we went in and hunted buffalo in the swamps. And have you been there with him?
No, I was actually I was supposed to go. I think it was last November, and I you know, with Remington and everything that was going on, I kind of had to pass. But the other thing I told Mark, I said, Mark, freaking November is this summer, and I said I'm not interested in going high humidity and high temperatures. So
yeah, and bugs, which we had no bugs.
Right.
We, the whole thing is you hunt these buffalo out in the swamps, and you know when I think of a swamp, I think of southern Louisiana and Florida, and where you can't see anything. Well, it's not. It's almost like being out here in Nebraska. You can see for miles. Everything's wet. You know, you walk through like a rice paddy almost. It's just everything's wet. So you can see buffalo for miles and miles. Oh, yeah. And they can see you, too.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got those cool kind of swamp vehicles that they use, too.
They have those swamp buggies, and they were originally built, I think they're built in Sweden for snow, but they float. And you're glad that they do, because part of the time you're floating. But if you couldn't use those, it would be really hard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It'd be really hard.
Well,
but
I mean, so do you got a couple of nice buffalo?
Yeah, my son got a really nice buffalo. I was more hanging out with him. It was more his trip, and that's as much fun as me hunting, you know. And he shot a really good buffalo. I think he was like a 43 and a half. out of a herd of about 500, and he shot him at about 250 yards, which I have never seen anybody shoot a buffalo that far, mostly because we could never, I mean, you were always in such thick cover, you couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, he hit him and literally stoned him with one shot, which is a little better than what I've ever.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, Hal Dane's got such a cool. I mean, I did a podcast with Mark one time. I think at the DSC last year, and he was telling me at the time when he first got that concession. I think he said they had less than, I'm going to say, 1,000 buffalo, and currently he's got 25,000.
Yeah, and that's when I met him. One of the comments he made to me, and it was all our friends who introduced me to him. He said, "Well, when you fly in, I'll show you 5,000 buffalo on the way in." And you fly in and you see 5,000 buffalo and 500 elephants and all kinds of stuff. It is unique. Now, the other thing about him is he runs an anti-poaching operation that is second to none. There's a reason why he's the DSC Outfitter of the Year. But one of the things, they have these things, they look like bear traps that they have been picking up from poachers putting out. They still find 5 or so of them a month. But to me, they look like an old-time bear trap. And these poachers make those things out of leaf springs from old vehicles. But, I mean, they're 2 feet long. They have picked up so many of those things that they use them as rebar in the foundations of every building in his camp.
Really?
He's got that many. And apparently, and I didn't see the shed. I found out about the shed later, but he has a shed full of these things that they pick up, and they still find them to this day. And when you fly out, you can tell when you've crossed out of his concession because you go from seeing game everywhere to it's pretty sparse.
Yeah. No, Mark's a great guy, and I remember him trying to convince. Don't worry, Ken. It's the summer, but we've got air conditioning in the camp just for you. Yeah, okay. Oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. But I really would like to go because, first of all, he's such a good guy, and I want to see his place.
The time of year I went was perfect, which was August.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend August.
Yeah, I am kind of booked next year for South Africa. I was supposed to go this year, but a stupid thing happened. I was supposed to go to northern Canada to Haida Gwaii salmon fishing, and then right after that, I was going to South Africa. I bid on a sable hunt, but I was also going to include a Cape hunt, a Cape buffalo hunt, and so I was. I have osteoarthritis in my knee, so I've been getting steroid injections forever. And so I got a steroid injection just before I was supposed to leave for Canada, and I got a freaking infection in it. And so here, almost 3 months later, I'm still on crutches. I have had 2 operations, blah, blah, blah. So it ended my trip to South Africa, which is kind of a bummer because I was really looking forward to that. First of all, I think a sable is just a beautiful, beautiful animal.
They are neat. Yep.
And the other thing is, I was going to go on for Cape buffalo, but I was really looking at getting one of the old Duggar boys that doesn't have any horns. They've kind of gone down, and they're, which to me is, they're such majestic animals, really, I think.
Yeah. That is one of those ones that I could do every single time, and just the walking and watching the trackers pick up stuff. I mean, I swear those guys could track a person across a Walmart parking lot.
They're really remarkable, aren't they?
They really are.
I was in Namibia not so many years ago, and we spent two and a half days tracking a big kudu. And the tracker said, this is the biggest print I've seen of a kudu. And we just never got to it. We would come across a watering hole, and you could see the ground was still wet where he'd been, but no kudu. And then the closest we got was one evening in the brush, but we couldn't see it. So. But they're remarkable. They can just track these things. I'm going. I don't see any tracks. What are you talking about? Oh no. There's a piece of broken glass or grass over there. That was a kudu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Sure it was.
Yeah. Exactly. But sure enough, we're at a place, and the next time you'd find there's a real track. Yep, that's the kudu. So they're pretty remarkable.
Yeah. That's just any of those opportunities. I mean, we're so lucky to be able to go do some of that stuff, and heck, we even get to call it work, so all my buddies just shake their heads at me. And so
it's a tough job, but but speaking about that, then we have the other stuff that I was telling somebody just recently that we're not all friends in the industry. There's some people we really don't necessarily get along with. And I happened to run into one that we'd never met personally, but I'd heard through the grapevine he didn't like me very much. And he'd heard,
that's kind of rude.
He'd heard through the grapevine I didn't like him very much, which we'd never met each other. So I met him and I talked to him. I said, look, maybe we've never met each other, but I really have nothing against you. He said, I have nothing against you either. But he said, even if I kind of did, you know what? We're in the same industry. We have the same shit that we have to deal with. And really, whether we're best friends and we have dinner on Sunday nights or whether we just have a working relationship, it's important that we stick together in our industry. So I think that's a big deal because our industry is not like most industries.
It is unique. There is no question. And in general, I would just tell you that everybody's just generally good people. There's always a few, but there's also a few in my family, and So.
Yes, of course, and that's always the case, But but our industry is a pretty unique industry because I can't think of too many other industries that can't open bank accounts. Never mind borrowing money, but I can't open a bank account someplace because I'm in the firearms industry, or what did I read just recently? The same sort of thing, different companies.
Oh.
It's terrible and I'd love to see somebody sue the ass off of these people because what do you mean we can't open a bank account? We're not trying to borrow money. Oh, I know what it was. They're trying to convince the credit card companies to register all gun purchases.
Right.
Really?
That's going to cause them problems. We actually had to change our credit card processor because ours told us they would not process any ammunition shipments. And the ironic part of that is, who do you think uses credit card? We don't do a direct-to-consumer business. We do everything through dealers.
Yeah.
But who do you think uses credit cards the most to purchase ammunition from us?
The dealer.
The government.
Oh, the government.
The government.
Yeah, government.
Yeah. Yeah. The government. I mean, it doesn't matter which three-letter agency. They all use credit cards to buy stuff.
So you told the credit card processors that the government uses this, and then the government, sorry, we can't use your credit card anymore.
And so the gal goes, well, give me an example. And I said, well, we have an FBI contract. She says, well, I'm going to need to see your FBI contract. And I said, yeah, you're going to have to call the FBI for that one.
Hey, yeah, of course.
That we decided right then and there we were moving. So,
well, good. Let me know who your credit card processor is.
I will. Yeah, we switched, and I don't remember what the name is, but we've been happy with them. They like our stuff, so that helps.
Well, when following the Remington bankruptcy, we tried to open an account, and this was a cash account. That's all we wanted, to be able to deposit incoming checks and to be able to write checks. And I knew the president of the regional bank, and he ran it up the flagpole and came back with, no, we can't open it.
That's just...
I mean, come on, really? But yet they'll do business with, I don't care, with Academy or Dick's or Walmart or whatever it is, and they have no problem processing it through there.
Right.
I don't get it. So look, one of the big questions that I see all the time on our social media channel is ammo shortages.
Yeah.
Still having material difficulties, or is that kind of lightening up now?
You know, the reality of it is we never had any material shortages on raw material components of ammunition. We got copper and lead and brass and powder, and we did fine on primers. Primers every once in a while were touch and go, but we did okay. The issue you run into is in 2020, our business doubled.
Yes.
It doubled. And all the inventory we had went out the door almost on March 17th. Biggest shipping day the company ever had. And it didn't matter what it was. If it wasn't bolted down, we put it on a truck. And then come 21, we managed to make 20% more than we had in 2020. So now you've not just doubled, but you're 120% essentially of where you had been. And trying to get capacity to come online quickly enough, and it wasn't just Hornady, it was everybody.
Yeah, of course.
There really was never a supply problem.
Right.
Nobody made less. It was an over-demand issue.
Yeah.
And everybody went from buying 1 or 2 boxes of ammo that they bought to they bought 1 or 2 cases. And there's just no way for an entire industry to build it that quick or build that capacity that quick. I used a thing about the NFL, not to pick on them, but if you told the NFL that they needed to double the number of seats they had available in all their stadiums next year, there's no way they could do it.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. And so we're faced with the same things. We're still adding capacity, but and plan to, but that was part of our plan before. So it really isn't as bad as everybody thinks, but that mindset is if it's on the shelf, I better buy it, and I better buy it all.
Right. Well, I think what happened, and I agree with you completely. What really happened, and this is, discussions that I've had with people, is that if you've got a long lead time for something, and I don't care what it is, let's say you've got a 6-month lead time for something, and now your business doubles, it doesn't change the lead time for that product, for that raw material. It's still 6 months, but now you've got to get twice as much as you did before.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a huge problem, and you're right. I know people that were buying more ammunition than they'd shoot in the balance of their life.
Yeah, and hey, I'm really thankful that they have. It's kept us all really in really questionable times, but you kind of shake your head. And I literally have had hate mail. We had 1 death threat. Really? But yeah, it's like you're threatening our lives over 30 ammo, guys. It's not that big.
Yeah, buy a gun with a different load.
Yeah, I mean,
with a different caliber, but it's really bizarre. Well, and one of the conversations I was having just before this, I was talking to somebody else, is that for the first time, at least that I can remember, there's always a political part that whenever elections come along, you've got a change in firearms ammunition sales increase.
Yep.
But what's happened since Trump was in, you've got the political component, then you've got COVID, and then you've got social unrest.
Yep.
And now all of those things combined made a huge difference.
Any one of them would have spiked our industry.
Yes.
And you had a perfect storm where you just kept having them.
Yeah.
And
I hope the perfect storm continues, but I don't see the social unrest going away, and the political part's not going to go away. So, and I hope COVID has gone away. I still see stupid people wearing their masks, and I go, come on, really?
Yeah, I think we're all going to look back and realize that it was a super big knee-jerk reaction by the world.
Yeah,
and it's. Traveling abroad is kind of funny because you run through some of these airports and you'll see people in full spacesuits.
Oh yeah,
yep. That's a little extreme. So,
well, and sometimes I was where was I? I was at Nuremberg last year at IWA, and the Germans have put in place that a mask is it's mandatory, but
Right.
it's not just any mask. It has to be one of their masks.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I came down from the hotel and I had a mask on. I came down the stairs from the hotel and was going to go into the restaurant. And the guy says, well, you have to put a mask on. I've got a mask on. And he said, no, you have to put one of our masks on. Go to the front desk and get a different mask.
Oh, yeah.
I said, come on, my table's right over there. 10 steps. No. And you know the Germans, no, do it this way.
Yeah, solving non-existent problems for hundreds of years.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I have to ask this because you did not, directly out of school, you didn't work for Hornady.
Nope.
You worked, I think, 14 years, something like that, for various other places.
Yep.
And, what brought you back, and how is it working with your dad these days? My son would probably say, shit, I don't really think that I want to work with him.
Well, it's like anything. It has its moments. But my dad had a policy. He never worked anywhere else. He came right back after he went to college for a couple of years and then came back and worked for my grandfather. And he felt like that was something that he shouldn't have done. He should have gone somewhere and gotten some experience. And, he'll beat himself up pretty good over, not having experience and fumbling through some things. I think he's done pretty well, but so he set it up where there's 5 grandkids, and basically we were all told that if you want a job, when there's a job available, you can have a job, but you have to go get relevant experience, and you need to do that until. And I've always said that it was 10 years after you graduate. He's always said it was 30. I heard 10 years. But, I went and I got a job as a sales rep in Ohio and met some of my best lifelong friends. And I know Ohio far better than I know Nebraska because I drove around and called on every tackle shop, gun shop, archery shop in Ohio. And there's a whole lot of them. And did that. And then I decided I wanted to be a sales manager because most of the ones I'd worked with I hadn't been super impressed with. And so I put my name on that list, and I almost took the Thompson Center job and didn't at the last minute. I let my boss talk me out of it, but I went to Redfield Rifle Scopes.
What year was that at Thompson Center?
So Thompson Center would have been 1995 or 6.
Oh, okay, maybe because I knew the guy that owned Thompson Center, and
Bob Gustafson.
No, it was a private. It was before Craig Ritz.
Okay.
Or Greg.
Yeah.
It was Forrest Binkley and Brown, and Jeff Brown and I are good friends.
Oh yeah, I know Jeff.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, Jeff's part of the group that bought it with Greg Ritz.
Yeah. Okay, so we can talk a lot of shit about Jeff. He's been a close friend of mine for years now.
Jeff and Mitch was his partner that we met, but Greg is one of my best friends, and we both ran in Ohio together. And when I decided I wasn't going to take the Thompson Center job, I was like, Greg, you should take this, and it ended up being a perfect fit for him. And he took that company to places that nobody ever thought a muzzleloader company would ever be. But so I went to Redfield Rifle Scopes, which was absolutely the wrong choice for me. It got me back to Denver. I went to University of Wyoming. It got me back into the Rocky Mountains, but the company was in so much trouble, and I was so over my head as far as sales, and my boss was over his head, and so we just didn't. It was too far gone for us to fix. So I rode that one into bankruptcy, which is a good experience.
Yeah,
it's one that I don't want to repeat. And
I've had that same experience, and I never want to repeat it. It was not nice.
I mean, it is not. But then I took another rep job for a company called Duncan Lewis, and that one I hit my stride. And my biggest account was Cabela's, and being a Nebraska kid calling on Cabela's was great because most of the time they had people coming from other parts of the world. And I don't know if you get this out of Nebraska, but we kind of look at outsiders over our glasses, kind of. And so it worked out great.
I kind of felt that way when we talked to each other at DSC.
Well, don't take it personally. It's just our nature. and
Well, look,
and that was
I'm Canadian, so I kind of look at people from Nebraska over my glasses too. So you can get
that's
it.
fair. That's fair. Anyway, and I worked for a guy named Charlie Duncan, and it was a lot of fun. And finally, there was the right job at Hornady for me, and it was the right time. We'd never really had anybody who'd been trained as a professional salesperson, and I came in and started making waves and being told by my dad that that's just not the way we're going to do it, and telling him that it was the way we were going to do it. And, we've found our harmony. We still have moments, but the difference when you work with your family is you actually say things to your family you won't say to your real boss.
Right.
And so you have to kind of be careful and remember that sometimes. So
yeah, I think the challenge is that you can have battles with your family, and they might even be about business. But when you sit at the Thanksgiving table or Christmas table, you better put that shit aside.
Yeah, and you just have to. It's funny. He's got a farm out just outside of town here that we all like to hang out at. But there have been several times when I'm out there during the weekend, and I'm saying to myself, he bosses me around Monday through Friday. Why am I out here letting him boss me around out here? So, but yeah, it's rewarding. We've certainly had a lot of luck. I like to think we've made a lot of it ourselves, but it's been a fun ride. And the first year I started isn't even really a good month in our world anymore. I mean, it was a pretty small company, and now we're a nice medium-sized company.
No, I don't know everything. I know very little about Hornady, but I think that you've done remarkably well. You're obviously one of the big players, one of the biggest players in the ammunition industry, really well respected. So I think congratulations. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you, and we've got a lot of similar friends. Not similar. We have a lot of the same friends. It was surprising to me when you and I did finally meet that first time. Like, how have we not met before? Because, I mean, our paths were crossing all over the industry. So,
it's kind of interesting because I think this is just rumor. I don't know how much reality is in it, but the old Remington, I came to Remington when they came out of bankruptcy and came out of Chapter 11 in 2018. And I came as a board member by J.P. Morgan. And then a year later, I was appointed as CEO. People ask me all the time, why did you do that? And
Who did you piss off?
Well, exactly. And I tell them all, in all honesty, I said, because I think I'm one of the few people that can actually make a difference to the company. But when I took over, it was just too late. It was like you with the optics company. It was just too late. There was a couple of, the largest investor that when it went in Chapter 11 in 2018, the largest debt holder became the largest equity holder, and they're so far left. There's from San Mateo, California. I don't think I need to say anything more than that.
Right.
And there was just no way we could really survive. But during that time, I'd kind of heard rumor that Hornady hated Remington. Something happened. Who knows? And I go, I'm okay, but I've talked to Steve before, and I hadn't talked to you. But I had an interesting thing happen with your dad. I ran out of ammunition one time. I was getting really low. I was going on, and I sent your dad a note, and I said, Steve, I'm using this particular ammunition of yours, and I said I've only got one box left. And he got back and said, well, Ken, this is really hard to get this ammunition right now. I said, okay, fine.
I think I remember that.
And then I talked to you, and you said, yeah, I'll send you a case tomorrow.
Yeah, I have no comments.
Anyway, that was good.
I don't remember anybody ever saying that we hated Remington or anything like that either. They were pretty good customers. You always run into somebody, like we were talking earlier, who maybe's got a little bit of snootiness to them, or and Remington had we're Remington attitude a lot of times, but that's not that big a deal.
Well, Remington, in all honesty, and I'm not having much problem with this now, maybe a tiny little bit. Remington had, honestly, I think they had a real shitty attitude about, we're Big Green and we just can't do anything wrong. And I'm going, well, just a second here. We're a manufacturer, and we better look to everybody that's a customer, everybody that's a vendor, everybody that's some sort of partner, and be good partners with them.
Yeah.
And pull your head out of your ass and start behaving yourself.
Yeah. Now that you mention that, I remember some of their buying staff in particular could be, pound the desk. We all know the types of buyers we're talking about.
Exactly.
They had that Walmart thing about them, but
well, and then they went ahead, and I remember I was the CEO of Crosman at the time, and we licensed Remington for air guns. And I remember at SHOT Show, they informed the world that they were only going to do business with the big chains now. They weren't going to do business with the wholesalers anymore. And I'm going, are you freaking nuts? What's the matter with you?
That was one of the happiest days of my life.
I'll bet it was. I actually had, we were talking about Spain a little bit earlier, but when I first took over Crosman, there was kind of 3 airgun companies of substance. There was Daisy, Crosman, and Crosman was the smallest at the time, and then Gamo. Gamo is the Spanish guys. And I became very good friends with the Casas brothers. There's 3 of them. So over the years, I became very good friends with them. And we always had a nice working relationship, even though we were competitors. But I remember I was having dinner with Juan Carlos one time because they used to buy CO2 cartridges from us. And we were having dinner, and he said, my brothers and I were sitting around dinner in Barcelona when you took over as CEO. And we kind of did a happy dance because we said, this guy doesn't know anything about this industry. He's come from the ski industry. And he said, a year later, we're sitting around Barcelona having dinner, and and he said, what the hell happened? Which was a nice compliment. But he said, the reality is you made us really much, much better than we were. So that was a nice compliment. But we've remained friends ever since then.
That's a fantastic compliment.
Yeah.
So how is everything going? You got stuff rolling and guns are moving, and how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Look, our biggest problem is capacity. And capacity, because steel is still really difficult to get for the center fire. It's we have to do spot buys. We've got some commitment, but getting steel is still challenging, and getting personnel. It's not a matter of the sales; it's a matter of production. And we could easily be producing twice as much as we are today if we had the people and we had the materials. And the people is a bigger challenge than the materials.
Right.
But we're pretty happy because there was a lot of things that happened, Jason, with Remington over the years. And really what they did is I've had this conversation multiple times, they played the market share game. Let's get more market share, more market share, more market share. Well, the only way you get more market share in a given segment is to lower your price. So great, you've got a whole lot of market share, and like we had pretty good market share when I came on with the ARs, but it was like putting $100 bill in every AR package.
Yeah,
so
it's not very.
It's not very smart business. They never took a price increase in over 10 years.
Oh.
They never, which you can't do. You know, everything goes up every year. Whether you take a moderate increase of 1 or 2 or 3%, you have to take an increase. They started saving pennies on stupid things. Like one of the things, the 870, arguably the best pump action shotgun in the world. They decided they would save 6 cents and not tumble the slide. So now you've got a slide that is kind of jerky. And over 6 cents. Yeah, 300,000 or however many guns that is, that adds up. But charge, do it.
Charge more.
Do it and charge 12 cents.
Yeah.
Pretty simple to me. So their quality had really changed significantly. They'd stopped innovating and really doing anything new. So right from before bankruptcy, or when I took over before the bankruptcy, the Chapter 11, that was one of the big focuses. We've got to improve the quality because it's, to me, is the number one priority. It's you have to have quality, quality, quality. You have to have great customer service, and and you have to be innovative. That's how our Alpha One and our new gun that your dad shot that big mule deer with. That's how those came about, by saying, okay, like the Alpha One, which we've had tremendous success with. I mean, it's not on the market yet. It won't be till the end of this month. But what we did is we started looking at the custom guns that were out there, and we said, hey, this one here's got this. This one over here's got this. Let's see if we can put all of these things together and bring a custom quality gun to a mass-produced gun. And that's the Alpha One. And everybody that shot it's just in love with it. They've gone, this is just a freaking awesome gun.
Yeah, I've heard from Seth and some of those guys. So it's kudos to you guys. That's great.
Yeah, and then you just have to continue to innovate. And look, you guys know a lot about innovation. Guess who brought that 6.5 Creedmoor out? It wasn't Remington, wasn't Federal. And we know you're bringing a new ammunition out, which we're not going to talk about on this. But one of the cool things, and we've still got very close ties and good relationships with the ammunition guys, with Vista.
Sure.
But one of the things that that the bankruptcy has allowed us to do is really focus on firearms and firearms only. Mm-hmm. So we can work with people like you that are bringing something new out. Because when I first took over as CEO, Remington didn't even have, well, I shouldn't say they didn't have. So that was 3 years ago, I think, when I took over as CEO. And at the time, or when I actually went in, it was a year earlier, so 4 years ago when I came on the board, I said, what the F is the matter with you guys? You don't even have a 6.5 Creedmoor. Well, yes, we do. I said, you've got them. You don't frickin' ship them. They're on your website, but you haven't shipped one. Now, 6.5 Creedmoor, even at that time, was arguably the number one selling round there was. And here's Remington, however many years after the fact, that didn't have one out on the market.
Yep. It's funny how that goes. And it's hard to... You can't coach some of that. I'll never forget. So, obviously, we got the opportunity to go look at the ammo plant when all that stuff happened.
Yes, of course.
And one of the stories that I heard, and I don't know which CEO it was. I know it wasn't you, but they'd had a CEO who the first thing he did is came in and closed the gun club. And it was like,
no,
what?
It wasn't me.
Yeah, and the reason was he didn't want the liability and didn't want this and that. And it's,
come on.
My whole reaction was that guy should have been fired that second for even uttering those words out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. When I first went to Crosman, I heard sort of the same type of thing because I went to Crosman in 2001 just on a 6-month consulting contract, and then I stayed for 10 years, sold the company 4 times. We built it. We built it up to really the largest airgun company in the world. But at the time, airsoft was just kind of starting, and the staff that was there said, "Well, we're not going to be in the business of where people point a look-alike gun at somebody else." And I say, "Okay, well, maybe you need to find another job," because I said, we're in that business, and we're going to stay in that business. You know what? Right. Nobody's ever pointed a freaking water gun at somebody else.
Right.
So people that do stuff like that are just crazy. When I took over, when I was on the board of Remington, the previous CEO that's still in the industry, we had our board meeting. We had a board meeting at at Huntsville. We had another board meeting at the ammo factory, and another one in upstate New York at the firearms factory. And he had never been to them. He'd been to them while they were in Chapter 11, 2018, but he didn't know where to even find the retail store, because both of them had retail stores. He had no idea how to find it. It's a freaking factory. Spend some time on the floor, walk around, figure it out. So anyhow,
you can learn a lot by walking around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people ask me what kind of manager you are. I said I learn by walking around. I listen to people, and on the line, and I'm sure you've seen this on the production line. If you really want to know a better way to do something, ask the guys that are working on the line. They'll usually tell you. Now, you may not be able to do it for financial reasons or for a number of reasons, but they're the guys who will tell you. So anyhow, that was a long story to tell you that how Remington's doing. I think we're doing pretty well. We're shipping as much as we can produce, as fast as we can produce it. We're shipping a much higher quality gun than people have seen from Remington in a long time. And hopefully orders are not our problem. Hopefully we'll get our production volume up. We're starting to produce in Georgia now, so that will increase it. We'll soon start producing 1911s. So I think we're doing pretty well, and I know that the margins that our customers are making are better than they've ever made in the past. So I think it's pretty good. How have you heard Remington's doing?
You know what? I've heard basically same kinds of things. I heard that the new gun is really nice and that you guys did a good job, and I'm hearing that you've been shipping product and that it's been doing pretty well, because that's a hard hurdle to overcome when you're not shipping for a period of time. And, it's hard, but no, I've heard nothing but good.
Well, I think the reality is that a lot of companies wouldn't have survived, but Remington it's a name that's second to none.
One of the best brand names on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And when anybody says Remington, what do they think of? They think of firearms.
Yep, that's right.
So, but anyhow, I think we're doing pretty good.
Good.
What about Hornady? So, do you want to say anything about your new CX bullet?
It's amazing. It comes right back to what you said. You ask your own guys, hey, is there anything we can do to improve? And we'd had the GMX bullet out there for quite some time, and it was a great bullet, but there were some things we could do to improve it. And just by changing the way we were cutting the grooves in the side of the bullet, increased the ballistic coefficient on the thing, 5 to 10%. And that's like me telling you all of a sudden your car is going to get 5 to 10% better gas mileage. It doesn't sound like it's huge, but when you get right down to it, it is. And we changed some way we're doing the tip. It's got our heat shield tip now, and certainly that market is growing for people who choose the monolithic solids, and so it's been really good, and we've gotten a lot better at making them. So that's kind of fun. And
speaking about the solids, I have to tell you another quick story, Remington story. When I first came, they weren't making any solids, and they weren't making any solids because some of the guys in the ammunition group were saying, well, they're dangerous, they're this, they're that, they're the other thing. And I said, who gives a shit? What, are we going to be the only frickin' company that's not making solids?
Yeah.
Give me a break. Anyhow, sorry, that's just another separate thing. Look, when I was at Crosman, one of the things that we did, because there was a big tendency in the ammunition, from the pellets, to get faster. And I was at the time going, something? That's not necessarily the direction we want to go. We want to have something, and this is something people didn't really grasp for a while. Energy is a hell of a lot more important than velocity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Velocity, yes, but I think that have you seen the shift? Like I know that everybody's talking about feet per second, but feet per second, if it doesn't have a lot of energy, doesn't really do much, I don't think.
It's funny because we're similar. We're about efficiency. And so if you look at the cartridges that we've developed or built in the last few years, starting with the Creedmoor and then the PRCs and now the 6mm arc, that's all about efficient delivery of the payload, which is what gets you your energy. I mean, and certainly, yeah, if you push the same bullet faster, it'll have more downrange energy, but usually the way to make it faster is to make it lighter. So there's your trade-off, and it doesn't work that way. You don't necessarily get what you want. And so ours has all been about efficiency. And if you look at the 300 PRC, which was developed to replace the Lapua for the military, it is not necessarily faster than the Lapua. They're about the same speed. It's just delivering its payload in a manner that's so much more efficient that the results are great. Same with the Creedmoor. There's other 6.5s out there that are far faster than the 6.5 Creedmoor. Far.
Right.
But if you're going to sit out and shoot all day at ranges of 100 to 1,000 yards, you're going to enjoy shooting that Creedmoor, but you're not going to enjoy some of the other Magnums that are out there. And so ours is all about efficiency and making it efficient. And I think probably we're both saying the same thing, just in a little different way.
Yes, exactly. I think so.
But yeah, that's exactly right. Fast is fast, but it's not always comfortable. You can get a Ferrari that's super fast, but you and I are both not the smallest guys. It doesn't mean we're going to be comfortable driving on the interstate in one.
No, I had a Porsche one time, and I got rid of it because I said it's not because of the size, because German cars big guys fit into, but it's a matter of comfort. I'm always on top of this, but I race, and I've raced Lamborghinis, and I could barely fit into the cockpit.
Yeah.
Really barely fit in. But no, it's interesting. So what do you see? What are people looking for from your standpoint in ammunition today, other than getting some?
Well, you certainly hear the getting some. The long range shooting as a whole is just where people happen to be today, and it's interesting because I've seen waves of different stuff come through. 3-gun was huge and still is, and IPSC was huge and still is, but right now lots of guys are spending lots of time tinkering with the long range, and that's one thing that is amazing to me is we used to be 80% of a hunting company, and now it's 50% is hunting and 50% is just people who want to shoot. And so there's lots of guys who are tinkering with stuff that they can shoot 100 to 1,000 yards, and it's fun, and they're passionate about it, and they talk about it and talk about gear. They're gear junkies. And so we've spent a lot of time working on those cartridges and making bullets that are way better. I wish my grandfather actually could see the price that we charge for A-tip bullets, because I think he'd have a stroke. That we make a bullet that's that awesome and that expensive. He'd probably tell us that there is no way in hell you can sell those. But guys buy them because when you're only shooting 20 or 30 shots, it's not what's the cheapest, it's what's going to hit the target. And so that's been a lot of fun. We're seeing lots of that kind of stuff.
What about handguns? Have you seen a huge increase in handguns? The ammo? Yeah,
we have. And we're not in the price point ammo, so we don't see, you're never going to see 9mm ammo for $9.99 or $10.99 a box or $12.99, whatever. I think it's in that $21.99 right now, but we just don't play in that. We don't have those kinds of capacities. So we're again tailor purpose. So concealed carry is really big. Duty carry has become real big for us. And actually we've seen a resurgence in some of the handgun hunting bullets. So that's kind of fun to see too. Some guys want to get up close and personal and don't necessarily want to carry a bow, but carry a handgun. So,
one of the things that actually interesting that you say that, because one of the things that we've talked about, I don't know that we're going to or not right now, but one of the things we've talked about is producing a hunting handgun.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's there's those guys, and they're passionate too.
Yeah, I know a couple of them. Larry Weishuhn being one of them.
He's one of the most passionate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. All around good guy.
Yeah, no, Larry is a good guy. I've been hunting with him a couple of times. I followed him. We were hunting up near in northern Quebec, the Leaf River, and Larry's got those long frickin' legs, and shit, can he ever go up those mountains fast? I'm going, geez, Larry, slow down a little bit, man. I can't keep up to you.
For an old guy too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
he can really move.
I hope he hears this, and because I guarantee he'll give me a hard time about the old guy comment.
Oh yeah, no, I'll make sure he hears it. I'm actually going on a hunt with him in November, mid-November.
Good.
I was supposed to go on a pronghorn hunt recently, but I've had a knee issue which has sidelined me for the last 3 months. So hopefully by mid-November it'll be okay.
Back in shape to run around the prairie. Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. It's been a long, burdensome thing. What about calibers? Because one of the things that I checked, and we all, from Remington, we have to really look at is we're not offering calibers for every single caliber that there is anymore. That was one of the old things with Remington is, you could almost buy any caliber that you want, gun. And I'm going, what the hell? I mean, we sell like a 16 gauge, shotgun or 10 gauge. Honestly, there's some people that use them. We're not going to provide them the guns because it's just there has to come a point that you say it's just not worth us doing this.
Right, and we've got the same issues right now, and on bullets we try to be everything to everybody because we want to be the bullet guy. On loaded ammo, there's certainly stuff that we've loaded that probably we shouldn't. I'm hesitant to say because usually the more obscure ones are the ones you get most of the hate mail on. But
don't say which ones they are then.
Yeah, we'll leave it. But it is fun to watch things like the 6.5. I remember being in hunting camps and meeting rooms and all kinds of stuff talking about why doesn't anybody sell a 260 or 6.5? I mean, the bullet selection is so good and they're so aerodynamic. How come the Americans just never bought? I mean, it was talked about for years, and the 6.5 Creedmoor is actually 15 years old now, but everybody thinks it's brand new. It just took that long to catch on. But
well, I didn't realize it was that old, but I've known, like I said, it's been 4 years, so I've known even at that time that it really was one of the dominant rounds. So talk about the 6.5 Creedmoor a little bit, because I just sent somebody an email last night, as a matter of fact. One of the people that we do quite a bit of work with, or we certainly do some work with, they're trying to get some content, and they've got a couple of people going on an elk hunt, and they asked if we could loan them a couple of guns. And I said, the gun that is with the Hornady ammo, I said, I can't give you that because, first of all, it's this is a mountain hunt. They're going to be hiking a lot, and that's a pretty heavy gun. And I know it's too early for Hornady. I said, but I do have these Alpha 1s, but they're in 6.5 Creedmoor, and you're elk hunting. I have no qualms personally about using a 6.5 Creedmoor to elk hunt. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't. But I think I'm a better shot than a lot of other people. I at least I spend a lot more time learning how to do it than a lot of people. So
Right.
what kind of hitting power is the 6.5? I mean, take a 7mm or a 6.5 Creedmoor and compare the two of them and say, I'd be perfectly confident and happy with the 6.5 Creedmoor because there's enough shock with that it should down your animal.
It's interesting. It is. I have no qualms about hunting almost anything with the 6.5 Creedmoor. Is it sometimes a little on the small side? It's on the edge of small for elk. But basically, if you're going to compare them cartridge to cartridge, there's the 6.5 Creedmoor is equivalent to a 308. And, it's not a Magnum like the 7.
Yeah.
But I think part of why the Creedmoor is being used as much, it comes back to what you said. People are so comfortable shooting it, and it makes them a better shot. And you shoot a Magnum, and especially if you're a smaller statured person, but I'll tell you, I'm a sissy about recoil anymore. I mean, that's something I just don't enjoy it. And so if I can do anything to abate recoil, I'm going to do it. I'd rather shoot lots of things with a 6.5 Creedmoor than I would with any of the traditional Magnums.
Oh, I agree. Look, I agree completely. I shot a 300 Win Mag for years because I really kind of wanted one gun that could do a lot of different things, and I thought 300 Win Mag is perfect. And then I came to Remington, and I started shooting a 7mm Rem Mag, which is, there's not a lot different, but there's a fair amount of difference in the recoil. And then I put a suppressor on. And all of a sudden, it was like magic. But at the same time, that suppressor adds more weight
and length.
And length, exactly. And you can't take it outside of the country.
That's the most challenging part. I just picked up 7 of them on Friday, so I'm kind of in suppressor heaven right now. During the whole COVID thing, I was like, I'm going to just do this, and so they finally just got approved the other day. So.
Look, I just love shooting a suppressor. Although my 6.5 I don't have a suppressor on it, and I really have no problem with it, except for I really forget the recoil because the 6.5 just doesn't have that much recoil, and it's a pleasure to shoot. But the sound, I mean, look, to be able to go out and shoot a lot of rounds without having ear protection is really nice.
It's really nice. It is really nice, and it's unfortunate that they're so misunderstood. You go to a lot of other countries, and they want you to shoot with them or make you shoot with them because of noise pollution. And certainly we're not in that boat here yet, and I don't know that we ever will be. But it is certainly nicer than not having one.
Yeah, look, and to me, it's just ludicrous at what people have to go through to get that. It's just, other countries in the world, as you well know, you can go into the local corner grocery store and walk out with a suppressor if you want.
Yeah.
And it's all, when you watch the television shows or the movies, that perfect silence, just a tiny little puff. Well, sorry, that's not real.
There's still a pretty decent crack, but.
So other than this new round that we both know is coming out, going to be released, I think, at NSAGW, correct?
Yep.
So other than that, anything new on the horizon?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We've got a new subsonic. It's not a new caliber, but a caliber that hasn't been loaded subsonic to my knowledge by anybody. That we're going to announce at the same time frame.
Okay, cool.
We've got a whole host of security products that we're doing, and we've gotten into lock 'em up. We're all about responsible gun ownership, and so we've got some stuff that uses our RFID coming. Our new products list is not as huge as it normally is because we're still trying to catch up, and if you come out with something new, everybody looks at you and says, "Why don't you just make the stuff that I already have been trying to buy?" But we've kept working, so we've got a pretty good list ready to go as things normalize, and capacity improves, we'll get back on being we believe in being a new products company, and that's coming.
Hey, look, in my mind, there's really, and this is what I've told my old staff, staff for years, different companies, is that there's three things that I think that companies really have to do. They have to have quality, they have to give good service, and they have to be innovative. And if you do those three things, it's almost impossible to not be successful.
Yep. Yeah, just, easy to do business with.
Now, Remington never did any of those three things for a long time. So the bar with Remington's pretty low. I can easily get past that.
Yeah, and it's, again, it never had anybody that just absolutely loved it. And you can see it when you walk through some of the facilities. It's like, I'm sure they probably had great IT systems because every CEO that came in understood you needed to have a good IT system. But, there was never anybody saying, hey, we really need, or they weren't getting the approval to really, do new stuff and improve facilities. And they appeared tired. I think it's fantastic that you've moved stuff to Georgia and have this thing going. I think that's great.
Well, isn't it nice to be, have a governor and be in a state? First of all, Georgia was never, ever, ever locked down. Right from the beginning of COVID, Brian Kemp said, we are not locking down. So all those companies just kept producing, etc. But the people in Georgia, they've grown up with hunting. They love guns, they love hunting, they love the outdoors. It's just great. It's like being in Nebraska, I think.
Right.
And so, and the other thing that it does, it gives you a huge infrastructure because there's a bunch of other gun manufacturers there. And so now your infrastructure for outsourcing parts or for outsourcing different things is right there. You don't have to go, across the world.
Right.
But they're very supportive. And when we try to hire people in Georgia, it's really easy for us. When we try to hire people in New York, it's challenging.
Yeah, it's a little different mindset up there.
Yeah, but even from the people standpoint, that's one thing. But New York State itself is a problematic state. They don't forget about gun companies. They just don't like business.
Yeah.
I'm pretty convinced they just don't like business. But that's a whole political thing that we don't need to talk about.
Yeah, we can probably just leave New York off our list for lots of things.
Yeah, it's, although the hunters that are up there, they're just really, they love doing it. So
and it's beautiful. It's beautiful country.
Yeah,
it really is.
At certain times of the year.
Yeah.
And California, we could say the same. California and New York, East and West Coast, but they've got a lot of people that buy our products, a lot of people that are avid shooters. They just don't happen to be the people in the cities, big cities.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is unfortunate.
Exactly.
Jason, I don't think I got anything else. I think we kind of, talked about.
We got through quite.
We had a good conversation.
I think so. Well, good luck on your adventures this fall, and I appreciate you asking me. And edit out whatever you think you need. It's fine by me. But I'm happy to do this anytime you want.
Yeah, look, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and let's stay in touch. And don't forget to send me the pictures of the mules.
I'll make sure you get them.
Okay, thanks, Jason. It was good catching up with you.
Yep.
See you. Bye.